SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Good evening, friends. My name is Dr. Neepa Vyas. Today I am going to discuss the subject of law, whereby today's topic is interpretation of statute. Dear friend, as we all are the student of law, we must know the distinguished name of this particular statute. Today I would like to start with few terms which are generally known as the synonyms of each other. The law, meaning of law or definition of law is different than the definition of the statute. Layman uses the word act, or he also sometimes uses act as the synonym of law. But friend, law, as per my knowledge, it is the wider term than the word act, or hereby I would like to use the word statute. Being the student of legal jurisprudence, one should use, when that person is the student of law, statute instead of act, or when the term law is used as synonym to statute, it is the wrong method. The meaning is, law means, what is the definition of law? What is the meaning of law? Law is a set of rules and regulations obeyed by people and are enforceable by the court of law. Here, law, again I am repeating, law is a set of rules and regulations obeyed by people and are enforceable by the court of law. So dear friend, here the two prospectus are important. The elements which are present in the term law are: the first, it is a set of rules and regulations. This set is obeyed by people and also are enforceable by court of law. Here the important point is set of rule which are obeyed by the people. Dear friend, law is also be enforceable by court of law as well as the statute. Let me give you the definition of statute so that we can compare both these definitions. Dear friend, statute is rule and regulations enacted by, I am repeating, enacted by legislature and are enforceable by court of law. These rules and regulations, as are enacted by the legislature, people obey it. Whereby, now let us make the difference between law and statute. Law, though they are not enacted by the legislature, people obey. The definition itself says that law is a set of rules and regulations obeyed by people, enforceable by court of law. There it is no possibility that whether they are enacted or not, that part is not touched by the definition of law. So enactment of any rules or regulations are excluded from the purview of the word law, whereas statutes are enacted by legislature. If we discuss this point with relation to India, legislature means the Parliament of India. So statute is set of rules and regulations enacted by legislature, obeyed by people, and enforceable by court of law. So here, because statutes are enacted by legislature, people obey. Whereas law is not enacted by legislature, but also people follow it. So there is no need or there is no importance whether this particular rule is enacted by legislature or not. Court can enforce it. Clear? So law is different than the word statute. Let me clear one more point regarding law. Law is wider than the statute. The meaning or why? The answer is law includes principles. Law includes the other things than the proper act. Law includes presumptions also. Whereas in any statutes, principles are never been considered as a part of the act, the statute. Parliament enacts only the provisions and remedy for violation of that provisions. That's all. It never discusses about the principles of that particular subject. Why so, or how you can say that law is wider? Let me take all of you to the first year LLB course or the first semester of this particular course, whereby one of the subject is general principle of criminal laws, whereby we are learning not only the general principles of criminal law as well as the provisions of Indian Penal Code. We discuss mens rea, the principle of mens rea. We discuss or we learn the principle of actus reus. These are discussed with the penal provisions of that particular criminal law. But if you discuss the Environment Act, Protection of Environment Act, it never contains any principles. By way of interpretation of the provisions, it is court which declares the principles relating to that provision. It is not the act which includes the principles. As I used one another new word, interpretation. Dear friend, this interpretation can be done of a law, whether that particular law is enacted or not enacted. Then what is the meaning of the word law? The dictionary meaning of the word law or the word statute. Hereafter I will use the word statute instead of using the word act. The meaning of the statute. This meaning, first I have taken dictionary meanings. If you look into the slide, I have taken two dictionary definitions. The one is Bowyer Law Dictionary, which prescribes a law. Here the definition is statute is a law established by the act of legislative power. And the second dictionary meaning is from Webster's Dictionary, whereby it prescribes the statute is a legislative enactment duly sanctioned and authenticated by constitutional rule. Both the meaning of law discuss about some authenticated bunch of a rule. As the word authenticated or established by the act, these two phrases are present in any of these two definitions, it means this definition discusses about the word statute. So, statute as per dictionary meaning, a law which is established by the act of legislative powers or authenticated by the constitutional rule of that land. This is the dictionary meaning. But when a law student pursues the meaning, he must rely on the legal definition. There are so many definitions or legal definitions given or explained by various authors, but the best that I found is the definition of Maxwell. This definition of Maxwell says a statute is a will of the legislature. How simple he made this definition. Statute is the will of the legislature. This is the very precise definition given by the Maxwell. That is why these people are considered as genius. Will of the legislature. So, whatever legislature wishes, when they are translated in a document, becomes the statute. So, ultimately, this particular bunch of rules and regulations are the will of the legislature. I think that till now I have cleared the concept of law and statute. Whether there is only one statute or there are kinds of statute. Yes, there are. With reference to interpretation of statute, I have calculated 8 kinds of law. These kinds are not the only kinds. I have not covered procedural law. I have not covered martial laws. I have not covered the military law. I have discussed only those kinds of law which are directly connected with the topic of interpretation of statute. These 8 kinds are like this. The first kind of the statute is the codifying law. This codifying law, I will explain you one by one all the kinds. Dear friend, codifying law, which means till the codification the provisions were scattered, lying here some provisions, some are lying on the other part of the earth, so they all are in use by the consent of the people, the group of the people named society, but they are not codified as a one bunch of a rule. The example is Hindu law. The example is Mohammedan law. There is no codified Hindu law. Another example is law of tort. It is not codified, it is not written, but the courts are applying these law as a statute, right? So though they are not a written law, but they are enforceable by the court of law and obeyed by the people. So it is the exception of the typical meaning of the word statute. Though the law is not codified, but it is obeyed by the people, so it is known as uncodified law. But when these customs, which are known as uncodified law, are codified by the law, it becomes the Indian Marriage Act, Special Marriage, Hindu Marriage Act, and the Special Marriage Act, Muslim Women Protection Act, Christian Marriage Act. Previously, they were uncodified, but due to the necessity of the society, they all are collected and enacted by the legislature, namely Parliament. So they become the codified law. Clear the first kind of the statute? The second kind of a statute is the declaratory statute. This declaratory statute is also the act as declared by the legislature. But for example, before 2005, in Indian Succession Act, it was not mentioned that daughters are also having equal right as the son in predecessor property. Predecessor property means જે વારસાગત મિલકત હોય છે તે. In the year of 2005, amendment taken place relating to one of the provision of Indian Succession Act. The amendment made like this: in co-parcenary properties,